Okay, so part 3 of how to build your own sustainable plan. And I apologise that it's taken me a few weeks to get this one done. Life has just seemingly got in the way, and I've been chasing my tail just like my fucking dog. So, this one is talking specifically about the training element. So, we've gone over setting reasonable expectations, and we've also gone over nutrition and how to sort of assign calories and find that deficit and stuff like that. So if you haven't seen those, have a look at part 1 and part 2. And this is the final part. And training is something that is often misunderstood, and people are quick to, if they're specifically in fat loss, trying to hammer out the cardio. Now, I'm not saying that cardio doesn't have a very important role, and it absolutely does, and you need cardio within any program for your heart and lung function and your mental health. And yes, you also burn additional calories as a result. So it absolutely needs to be part of a program, but it doesn't need to be the only part or the primary part. The amount of people I see that strap on their trainers and go for runs or hit the Stairmaster or hit the cross trainer or put the treadmill at 5.6 miles per hour on an incline of 3.9 in order to burn fat, which is utter nonsense, by the way. Yes, steady state cardio helps to use fat as fuel, but that doesn't mean or isn't the same as fat loss. You need to be in a calorie deficit for fat loss. Fat burn and fat loss are two very different things. And if you want to know more about that, just ask and I'll tell you. Or I'll do a post about it maybe, about the difference between fat loss and fat burn. However, I think I've already done one actually. However, everyone is quick to look at cardio, whereas actually the king of fat loss is actually strength training, resistance training, whatever you want to call it. And it's multifaceted as to why it's better for fat loss than cardio or cardio alone. When you do any form of strength or resistance training, what's happening physiologically is ultimately what you're doing is tearing fibers of the muscle. The muscle then repairs those fibers and the muscles become stronger. So ultimately, we're damaging muscles. And in order to repair those, it requires energy. So you burn additional calories repairing the damage that you've done to the muscles during a session. And that increase in your metabolism in the caloric burn can last up to 48 hours. So if you were to compare cardio and strength training for calorie burn, in the time that you will generally do cardio or strength training, so let's say it's 45 minutes and you did 45 minutes of cardio and 45 minutes of strength training, you will probably burn more calories in that 45 minutes doing cardio. However, the afterburn effect, but ultimately the raised metabolism post cardio will come back down to normal pretty quickly, usually within an hour. However, with strength training, even though you do burn calories additionally for that 45 minutes, because you've done this damage to the body, your metabolism remains higher for longer because it's trying to repair the damage for up to 48 hours. So actually, in that 45-minute session, you will end up burning more calories through strength training than you would solely through the cardio. Make sense? Now, it's not an exact science. I'm throwing out ballpark timings here, but the science is sound. So not only will you burn more calories as a result of strength training over a 48-hour period, the more lean mass you have, the more muscle you have on your skeleton, the more calories you burn at rest. So actually it'll raise your metabolism as well. So when it comes to fat loss, absolutely strength training needs to be part of it. Now, there are loads of other benefits: joint mobility, joint flexibility, bone density. It can help deter the offset the degradation in muscle mass as we get later in life, like this guy. It's going to help with your posture. It's going to help with your body composition, your body shape, how you feel. It's going to increase your overall strength. It's going to improve your mental health. Da 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 da. You get the idea. So strength training actually ticks so many more boxes than cardio would. Now, I could think of nothing worse to do with my time than hammering out a treadmill or going for a fucking run. I'll run to the car if it's raining, and from the car to a building if it's raining, and that's probably the only time you'll ever catch me running outside of a squash court. I prefer sport, and squash specifically, as my cardio because I enjoy it, and I'm also held accountable because I play with a partner, and if I've booked a game in with said partner, I turn up. Whereas if it was just me going, right, you've got to go and hit a cross trainer for 45 minutes, I could quietly dissuade myself from doing that. I don't know about you. So for me, my cardio is always going to be some form of sport, and it'll generally be squash because I enjoy it. So I play squash anywhere between 3 and 6 times a week. And then I do my strength training above and beyond that, averaging 3 sessions a week. Sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 5, but as an average 3 times a week. And that's how I keep myself healthy and fit and active and strong and capable. So when it comes to strength training, so do cardio. Do some form of cardio because you need it. However, don't solely focus all of your energies on cardio. You need to start looking at the inclusion of some form of strength training into your week. And that could be something as simple as getting yourself a set of bands off Amazon, 15 quid, and doing some resistance training with bands. Very cheap, space saving, and you can hit the whole body with them. They've got anchor points, you can hang them over the doors. There are numerous exercises you can do. You can look on YouTube, you can look on fucking TikTok probably. If you really don't know what you're doing, then you can reach out and I'll write you a little program on a Google Sheet, even though I hate Google Sheets. But if you wanted a program, right, I could send it across to you that just works some bands. And even once a week is probably going to be more than you're doing now. So don't think that you then have to hit the gym 5, 6, 7 times a week in order to see results and progress. You don't. You need to start smaller and then build. Now, will one session a week forever be enough? Probably not, to be honest. But is it a really good place to start? And then you can learn to build more sessions into the week as you get more comfortable and confident and competent in the movements. Absolutely. So do you need a gym membership? No, absolutely not. Can it help? Absolutely, because it offers more variety, more choice. And for me, even though I've got a home gym, the motivation to go and train in my garage is much lower than getting in my car and driving to a gym, because there's people and there's social interaction, and there's that once you walk through the door, you feel like you have to do something. Whereas walking into my garage, I could quite easily just do the bare minimum. So starting at like once a week in the house with a set of bands would be ideal. And then what you could do is potentially split it. So you might do, like, let's say, one whole body banded routine, 30 minutes, let's say. Then what you could do, you could go, right, I now want to do some banded work twice a week. So I'm going to make a split. So I'm going to do a lower workout and I'm going to do an upper workout. And my lower workout, I'm going to include some more exercises, more than I had in the whole body program. And then the same for the upper. For the upper, I'm going to include some extra exercises in there. So that then you might get 2 30-minute or more sessions done with your bands. So you could start there. You could start small. You could start just by creating something that is manageable, that fits into your time and your schedule, and that you will be capable of achieving. And then the doors can open. You may already have a gym membership and basically not use it. It then becomes an expense. So why don't you have a look at exploring some free weights or even some machine-based strength training to start with? I tend to encourage people more onto machines, especially if they're brand new, because machines have a fixed path. So you kind of struggle to get it wrong. You might have a seat that's too high or too low, or you might be shrugging your shoulders a bit, but the chance of injury is much more reduced from being in something that has a fixed movement plane. And then you could kind of explore free weights. Now, once you go into free weights, you've got a little bit more risk, I suppose, of injury or hurting yourself, potentially, if you haven't been shown correctly how to perform specific exercises. Because with free weights, for example, dumbbells, there is a lot more that can go wrong. There's a lot more muscle activation required, and the technique and posture and execution of the exercises become a lot more important. And that's probably when you would look at, especially if you're brand new, employing the services of a coach to help you and educate you and inform you into how to perform all these exercises safely. But starting on some machine-based stuff would be a great place to go to start learning about muscle activation and where you should feel it, and exploring new and different exercises that might be available to you. Then you've got something that we call progressive overload. You may have heard it. Ultimately, and in summary, it basically means do more on this session than you did in the last session. So in order to encourage growth and progression, we need to be constantly pushing the muscles out of comfort zones. So it may be that you can increase the weight, you could increase the reps, you could add another set, you could reduce the rest times in between. There are lots of different metrics you can use for progressive overload, but ultimately what we're looking at is getting stronger, getting more muscle on your body. Ladies, it doesn't mean you're going to be hench. It's incredibly hard to build muscle for men. And women, it's even harder, I'm afraid, because of the lower testosterone levels. So the chances of you becoming bulky or man-like doing strength training is slim to none, in all honesty. If it's a goal, then we can absolutely look at putting you in a calorie surplus, making sure that we are training. The training frequency is really high, that the load over sessions is increasing. So can you build a lot of muscle? Absolutely. It's going to take a lot longer, though, than you would anticipate. And just getting stronger doesn't mean you're going to become hench. But progressive overload is a really important element of getting stronger. If you aren't pushing yourself in each session, you won't get stronger. You won't get weaker, but you certainly won't develop. You won't get stronger. And ultimately, that's what we're looking for. We're looking at trying to get you stronger. And helping with that joint stability and joint flexibility and blah, 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 all the other stuff I talked about. So progressive overload is really important. Do more this session than you did in the last session. Now, I'm not saying that it's always going to work. Like, you're going to have peaks and troughs of energy levels. Your sleep might have been poor. Your diet's poor. You're not well. There's inflammation. Time can be a factor. I'm not saying that every single session you do will be an absolute world beater. You will go in tired sometimes. You will go in fatigued. You will go in low in energy. And then you just need to train appropriately for that session. But overall, what we're looking at on a bigger picture is this progressive overload, so that you do log data and you can see this progression in weights and reps and sets and strength and energy levels and everything else over time. So strength training, key component of fat loss specifically, but making sure that you start small and then continue to build, and using that progressive overload theory. God, it was like I was buffering then. So using that progressive overload session to session, and absolutely the inclusion of cardio should be in there, but it shouldn't be the primary exercise that you go for. If you are specifically looking at fat loss, you would always do your strength training first and foremost, and additionally add some cardio in. Hope that helps. Any questions? Just drop a comment, say hi. Don't forget to subscribe wherever it is, and